Hey, hello, testing.
Mine's on.
Testing, there we go. Good afternoon, everyone. We want to first of all welcome you and thank you for some of you coming off of your summer schedules and being here with us today, and district office staff as well, coming away from your schedules to join us today in this first bargaining session. I'm going to be forward, I guess. We'll go ahead and set this up that this is session one. It's June 25th. And this is where we're going to begin our bargaining cycle for 26-27 school year. We have discussed an agenda. It went out last evening around 9 o'clock, as well as we have discussed that as we arrived here today. We want to prioritize our time up front today, really unpacking TISA is at the front of our priorities. We want to kind of talk about what we've been learning collectively and collaboratively in some of the meetings we've been at with the changes to the statute that directs us with the TISA allocations. And then maybe look back in history for kind of how we got here, and then ultimately dig into some numbers and proposals and begin to work from there. So I'm going to pause, and then Stephanie will have remarks as well before we begin.
All right, and we had talked last night, team, just for everybody to know, we do want to predominantly talk about TISA because we know that that's the pressing thing that we've got to figure out. Because there are no more state requirements on when we have to be done and report this out to. All right, so before we get into, because we do have a proposal that we want to talk about. All right, we do have proposals that we want to start talking about because once we got numbers from Jessica, we were trying to take the law that is now in effect to maximize the teacher salary increase allocation that I will either say TSIA or TISA from now on. So the teacher salary increase allocation money has new rules governing that. So I did want to spend a few minutes and kind of go back. We've had the teacher salary increase allocation in law and in budget allocation since the 1920 school year. Or no, the 2021 school year is that first year that we had it. And that first iteration of the TISA money was that was the race to get to 47.5. The state had moved the base salary for teachers to $47,500. And at that time, we were at, I think, 42,182 for starting teacher salary. So we had quite a bit of ways to go to reach that 47.5. And we all know that the legislature at that time did not appropriate enough money to go straight to 47.5 in that first year, nor did they appropriate enough money to give veteran teachers who were not at the base 0 years of experience the same compensatory raise to keep everything uncompressed. So what ended up happening over a 3-year period of time is we were able to get to 47.5 with the teacher salary increase allocation. But that got the base about a $6,500 raise over 3 years, and veteran teachers were only seeing 3,000 or less over that same 3-year period of time. And that created compression. And when we say compression, that means that it changed our salary schedules to where 0 to 13 years of teaching experience were now all making $47,500. And so then over the next 3 years, we had to spend decompressing that schedule to ensure that veteran teaching staff were not making the same amount as a teacher coming in with 0 years of experience. And that took us about 2 years to decompress. And now we're at a space where still our veteran teachers have not been able to keep up because our legislature fails to appropriate money to public schools. And they continue to move billions of dollars of unaccountable money to private and charter and homeschool entities. And we've actually seen over the last couple of years the loss of like over $100 million in Polk, I think is what we had looked at last year, leaving Polk County Public Schools to unaccountable private schools, charters, and homeschool entities. And so what the legislature has done this year is they have tried to fix a problem that they created 7 years ago, in the inception of this teacher salary increase allocation, despite people on the ground telling them 7 years ago that what they were doing would create this, they ignored the people on the ground and they did what they wanted and they put us in the mess that we're in, and they are trying to fix a problem that they created themselves. And so what we are looking at this year with the teacher salary increase allocation is that our legislature and our governor signed the law that said now this money can only go to teachers, classroom teachers. It can only go to classroom teachers. But we also know that there's a lot of non-classroom teachers in our schools. And so our state has done this yet again, creating problems with the intent of fixing their own problems. And we're in the situation we're in now, that we are now having to work within the parameters of this law that says now this money can only go to classroom teachers with 10 or more years of Florida public school experience. And so it has been a challenging dumpster fire trying to figure out who does this money go to and how do we actually disseminate this money while meeting parameters set within the law. And so what we did when we got JD's kind of breakdown of the money. So there is $8.4 million in the teacher salary increase allocation, but we have to less that amount to eligible charters that receive those dollars as well. And about half of the charter allocations have been reported. We're still waiting on charter schools to report their projected FTE. And so JD's rough numbers that he gave us last week on this breakdown had an estimated about $6.9 million. But we also know that's probably not where we're going to stay, because as charter schools report their projected FTE, that $6.9 million is going to continue to decrease until charter schools have fully reported their FTE. And so we took that into consideration when we were starting to cost this out. We took roughly about $1 million off of that, and we were looking at $6 million to start with the teacher salary increase allocation to see, okay, how can we divide this $6 million up that we also have to include fringe benefits with? It's not just straight salary. We also have to incorporate 22.4% of fringe benefits into this allocation. And so what we did was we took Jessica's spreadsheet that she gave us, and there was delineations of classroom teachers and some other categories. And so what we did based on our placement schedule, it looks like AAG 07 will have 10 years as of July 1. And so that's what we were projecting and using that number. So from AAG 07 down the schedule would have 10 or more years of experience. And so I filtered out classroom teachers, put them in a separate bucket. And then I looked at, because I requested access of the new schedule. And so what I did was, when we were disaggregating the spreadsheet, we took AAG, just AAG, and I looked at their total years of experience. And even then it's not clean, but it was pretty accurate of anybody that had 10 or more years. And then I highlighted those and then said, yes, you're over 10 years, as of July 1, because what we wanted to do is anybody that completed this year. So if they were currently in year 10 in the 25-26, they're going to have 10 years of experience on July 1. So we wanted to make sure they were included in this money, right? Because they would be eligible as of July 1. And so we wanted to ensure that that group it had 9 years, but was working on 10 were in this pot of people. And so that came out to 2,632. I know that's probably a rough number because there's also some, resignations that might still be processed, retirees, things like that. But that's the number that we use to kind of divide out $6 million. And so we did $6 million divided by 2,632 people, and we got about $2,200. But we also know that has to include benefits. And so we backed out that, and about $1,800. If you times that by the 1.224, you get 2,203. So we're like, okay, that's a pretty solid place to start. And so we were looking at classroom teachers with 10 or more years of experience getting $1,800 based on the rough numbers and allocations that we have, knowing that that is still kind of in flux, right? And I just want to interject here. I find it's ironic that the legislature can spend more than 100 days past session creating a budget and passing a budget, and then imposing these strict timelines on districts when they can't even get their job done on schedule. So just want to put that out in the ether. And I know you guys can't respond, but blink twice if. Anyways, and so that's how we calculate, and that's where we try to start, right? Because we knew that we have to maximize those dollars, but also knowing that charter schools have not fully reported their FTE projections. And so we felt that that was a good place to start. And so what we also looked at was knowing that we are in the middle of the SAP upgrade. And in full disclosure, I did call Ann Pasco because we had questions and we didn't want to start going down rabbit holes as a smaller group if something was not doable. And so we had some questions, and I'll be transparent here with those questions that I asked Ms. Pasco. With the people that are being hired now that are coming in with no years of experience, like they're not bringing in outside, being placed somewhere, they're truly coming in as brand new teachers. Could we put them on a new pay level so that they stay at 48,450, and then we can look at everybody else? And she said no. Because you guys can't create anything right now. Everything's locked in. They would have to go in on AAD right now. Because we can't the schedules are locked. And so that actually answered my second question that we were thinking about. Well, is it even possible to separate classroom from non-classroom from our schedules? And so the answer would then be no, because we can't create a new schedule. And I'll use myself as an example, because I just finished 17 years in Florida's public schools, and I'm on AAK. And so if I'm on AAK as a classroom teacher, there is somewhere in this district an instructional coach that is a non-classroom teacher that is also on AAK. And so you could not give me TISA money on AAK and not give anybody else who's on AAK the same raise. And so there's no way right now to separate any of this out. And so knowing that we have to maximize the TISA dollars based on what the legislature in their infinite wisdom decided to impose without talking to anybody on the ground. 1,800 seems to be right now kind of the sweet spot to maximize those dollars with benefits. And so what we did, and what's before you, and I will send you guys the spreadsheet in full after we're done today so you can see what I was messing around with. And actually we'll go ahead and, since I'm talking, we'll go ahead and so you can see it. And so we costed what would $1,800 be for every person in the teacher contract that had over 10 years of experience. And so we did $1,800 for everybody, because the only two separate schedules right now in the teacher contract are the deans and the OTPTs, because even the student services on paper, they're separate, but in the system right now, they're still together. And a function of the teacher. So we can't even separate out school counselors, mental health facilitators, school psychs, all of those folks that are in the student services. And so we wanted to make sure that we were being as fair as possible and still abiding by this ridiculous law, and putting out where anybody with 10 more years of experience. And we did it by levels, because the AAGO7 is that they just finished year 10. So anybody AAGO7 in any of and you guys should have that, would get $1,800 so that we maximize the TISA dollars per law. And then what we did is we costed out $1,000 for anybody that had less than 10 years of experience. So AAD to AAGO6. And on the OTPT schedule, based on the years of experience, it looked like that BA through BG on the OTPT would be $1,000, and then BH through CG would be $1,800 based on the years of experience that were calculated out there. And so total for the teacher contract, and this includes the TISA money, would be $11,509,027. And we don't just have teachers in our union. So we also wanted to make sure that we're bringing our support staff proposals in this bargain as well. We had costed out a 50 cent per hour raise for all support staff. And that came out to, all of these are with benefits with the 22.4%. The ESP contract with a 50 cent an hour raise would be $571,213. And the para contract with benefits would be $1,257,099. And so for a total of $13,337,339, knowing that that number is probably going to go down, because as we started spot checking today, it looked like even some retirees and stuff were in there too. So even that number is probably going to go down a little bit. And so holistically, we think that because we can't separate out classroom from non-classroom for the majority of our people, we want to make sure that if we're talking money, we're not just talking about one group, we're talking about all the groups holistically. But we're also cognizant that JD had projected about 12.7 million total money, knowing that that could fluctuate up or down slightly too, that we're within, $500,000 of the projected, knowing that that could go up, it could go down. But we wanted to try to make sure that we also were looking at money too, because a 50 cent an hour raise for support staff, it's not great. None of this is great. And we have to recognize that none of this is great. And that's no fault of anybody on your side. It's not a fault of anybody on our side. This solely sits at the feet of our legislature and this governor who do not care about public education. And that's why we're in the situation we're in right now. And so we know that none of this is great, and we recognize that as a team. And I think that you guys would also echo that as well, that we should be able to give more, but we also need a state that values public education, that will put money towards the people that are in this profession and the kids that are in our schools. And so with that, we are open to questions and comments.
Okay, the first thing I want to do is also go back. One of the things you talked about, Stephanie, was how to define classroom teachers. And we had agreed, and I went back and looked up the statute in preparation for today, that's defined in Florida statute 1012.01 subsection 2 A through D. And basically that defines classroom teachers, student personnel services, librarians, media specialists, and other instructional staff. So that's really the same thing they used last year. There's no change in that. I wanted next to talk a little bit about the charter portion of the TISA monies. I know when we visited last and we were doing runs, we were still anticipating, I think we had 18 or so of 40 some odd charters. We were waiting for their final projections, and I think those are all in at this time. And
yes, but
okay,
I was just informed that we are worried about one of the projections that one of the schools has submitted. So we are still trying to review that.
So what that
It did change it though. Right now it's sitting at almost 1.7 would go to charter schools.
Okay, so we were, I think,
You were conservative on.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I was gonna try to get to, is we have a little harder number than
Okay.
before. I had a 1.5 here, but we have a 1.7 now. A 1.7 mil going to charters.
JD, do you think that's gonna change? Is it gonna swing too far one way or another, or is it gonna stay pretty?
With just one charter school, once we get finalized numbers for them and confirm with them, then it should just be.
So then it would be 8.4 minus 1.7. Okay.
So that brings my calculations to 6.4, if I did that right. And I think you said,
6.7.
yeah, you came in at,
It'd be
6.7, sorry. And then you came in at 600, so.
Yeah.
A little different values there. The next thing I think that we just have to discuss, is the 12.7 million, because that was presented as new money. And in transparency, it is new money to the district, but I think we need to unpack how it is defined as new money and how it's categorized. So can we hand that out at this time? Actually, we have enough to send a couple of answers here.
Yeah, we'll send it to you.
And then Stephanie. Brief.
So we went back and referred to the questions you had sent on the email, and I
Mhm.
believe there may have been a bit of a misunderstanding in how it was interpreted. So what we want to do is just go through a comparison of the second calculation from last year to our conference report, which is the current information we have for this year. And I'd like to note that we don't know our final funding until around July 19th, which is when the state has to certify what our second calculation is, and that includes our final millage number. So JD and I worked on this. We color coded safe schools, mental health, those coded in orange are the categoricals. And what that means is that funding can only be spent on those particular items. The family empowerment scholarship amount is highlighted in blue so that you can see the difference for your information. And if you go down to the bottom, the new K-12 funding is about $25.4 million new funding over last year. However, the categorical total is 12.7 million. That's at the bottom of your sheet in orange.
Mhm.
Those dollars have to go specifically to the items above that are highlighted in orange. We divided that into two sections. So the district categorical is 10.6 million. The charter portion is 2.1, and that totals your 12.7. We reduced the remaining amount of charter schools, which is a little over 16% of our total district funding, and then took the total new TSIA allocation off. I didn't break out the charter piece there. So our new funding is actually 2.1 million. And then there is a caveat. At this time, we are projecting a negative balance in our health insurance fund. And as you know, we cannot make changes to our plan without ratification. So we're looking at an additional $200 per employee per month that the board will have to contribute to keep that plan from going into the negative. So our projected ending for next year, that would put us right at about level. Any questions? Does this help make sense? Any questions?
I think that was the wrong question. It doesn't help. It makes sense. It doesn't help.
Is it clear?
It's clear.
So yes, you read the email correctly. We do have additional monies, but some of those monies are restricted. And that's what this is illustrated to. Yes. Well, and then you take that out there, so we're. Total budget.
So we have about 13,000 employees total-ish. So about 2,632 teachers are eligible for the TSIA money roughly based on our calculation. So about 10.5K people have to split $2.1 million. I just want to just for the record, I know that this is not your fault. You're just presenting the numbers. But is that kind of we have to use 2.1 million for every other employee except for the teachers that qualify for the TSIA money?
In transparency, that was the question I was just posing.
Okay.
The 2.1 million would not just be PEA.
That's what I'm saying.
It would be where we typically
everyone.
go in, where we take a chunk of money and we divide it across how many people are in each of those groups and go from there. And we usually do that by the formula and the percentage.
Mhm.
It's not a magic thing. So that should answer that question.
So then, because I think our team, we wanted to have dialogue and kind of dig into spreadsheets and maybe work to see what can be done, right? And use this as some work time. So knowing the limitations of the SAP, right now with the personnel upgrade. If we are, how logistically are we going to provide TSIA, let's just say $2,000, because we have a little bit more. So if classroom teachers that are eligible for this to have 10 or more years of experience in a Florida public school, I want to put that as a caveat because that's in there too. How are we going to logistically give this money into their base salary without giving the other people that don't qualify? Because the law is also very explicit that it has to be part of their base salary. It can't be a supplement or a bonus or anything like that. So you guys, because I don't know the intimate details of the SAP upgrade. So like logistically, how do we think we're gonna do this then? If we can't, if there truly is no money to do this for everybody with 10 or more years of experience, how are we gonna do it?
I'm gonna look down the table and see if anybody has any thoughts. I would offer that whatever we present would be in a think tank.
Yeah, I just don't know.
Not taken as gospel.
No.
Right, right.
Okay.
We'd have to review statute.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's not wrong with it.
No, it does. You're right, but.
It's just a supplement.
Yeah.
That's
It's
what she's
against the
at.
law.
There
It
is a way-
specifically says in statute that it
Yeah,
has. to be
base
part of
pay.
the salary
Yeah,
schedule.
it has to be
Some-
space, but
Or do we have any that are? So.
While they're talking about this, I'm gonna look across to Stephanie because I need to figure this out in my own mind. We have already determined, I guess, at the table that we can't discriminate between 10 years or more
Yeah.
classroom versus
We just can't.
non. So that would mean, based on what they're talking about, they're just gonna take that group of people from AAG 07
Yeah.
and then discuss how we add this value, whatever the final value is to base pay. We're not gonna discriminate and pull out.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you guys can.
I don't think there was an option for that. We don't know at these various levels who's classroom and not classroom. We were trying to figure out if there was a way with a code or some sort of way to pull out. And we have in the statute, we know these 4 different pockets, but I don't know if we could do that
Yeah.
by way of something in
Well-
SAP to discriminate. And I mean that
Yeah.
in regards to.
Yeah. Well, and I think when I was talking to Ms. Pasco, trying to, because again, we weren't gonna go down rabbit holes that we knew were gonna be dead ends. And so like,
Yeah, I
why
just wanna
spend all
kill
of this?
Or figure it out.
Yeah, and so why spend all this time trying to go down and figure out something if the system won't let us do it right now? So that's why we did call her so that we could either get some definitive answers of what's allowable and what we can't do. And so I guess because we cannot pull out the testing coordinator that's at AAK and the classroom teacher that's at AAK, and $2.1 million isn't gonna touch those non-classroom folks, like that would be eaten all up. So I guess I just don't know. I just don't know.
it needs to be like the middle and a salary schedule, or is it just?
Cause the law says it has to be part of their base salary and cause it's a reoccurring, it's part of their base. It cannot be taken away. And that's why we thought that this would be to maximize those dollars, we'd have to give it to everybody with 10 or more years of experience, because there's no way to delineate who's who out of that pay schedule.
And again, what's happening here is exactly what I wanted to see happen in you too as a think tank. One of the ideas that just came out over here is we're looking back over the list that we use for teacher lead, because that would have to be classroom teachers. And so we're gonna see if there's a duality there. Maybe we could use that list to define who's.
And I don't think we're not arguing who's a classroom teacher and who's not a classroom
No.
teacher, just the logistics of how we get this done.
But it
Could you
matters
do
to
it as a
me.
bonus like the lead money does? Yes. Can you do it as part of the base salary? No, because you can't pick it out of SAP.
We have to come up with a list of teachers for
That's the
the
first
lead
part.
money.
But aren't there some
So-
people that get lead money that wouldn't fall into that category? If I'm not mistaken, don't media specialists get teacher lead money?
They do count as classroom.
So I mean, like,
That they're in the
there are
classroom.
differences, there just wouldn't be an accurate list.
They count as classroom teachers.
You want me to read to the group what A through D is in the statute? It says classroom teachers are staff members assigned the professional activity of instructing students in courses in classroom situations, including basic instruction, exceptional student education, career education, adult ed, including substitute teachers. Letter B, student personnel services. Student personnel services include staff members responsible for advising students with regard to their abilities and aptitudes, educational and occupational opportunities, and personal and social adjustments, providing placement for services, performing educational evaluations. Similar functions included in this classification are certified school counselors, social workers, career specialists, and school psychologists. Letter C, librarians, media specialists. Librarians, media specialists are staff members responsible for providing school library. I won't need to go into all that again, the TA resources. And then letter D is other instructional staff. Other instructional staff are members who are part of the instructional staff but are not classified in one of these categories specified in paragraphs A through C. Included in this classification are primary specialists, learning resource specialists, instructional trainers, adjunct educators certified pursuant to statute 1012.57. So that's the list
Mhm.
that impacts TISA, that impacts, I believe, teacher lead as
Yeah.
well. And we were trying just to ensure that I don't know if teacher lead is driven by statute or state board rule, but whatever the
Exactly.
criteria
Statute.
is that defines that group is the same as here. Because we already have a teacher lead list that we're using. So could we use that list?
It can if
So
you're
then we
doing
have a
a
quantifiable
bonus.
list of people, right?
Just to get the list of people.
Yeah, then we have a quantifiable value and we figure out how to do this, the next part. That's kind of where I'm at.
Well, and I guess my question with that is based on that definition, with the 2,632, when we pulled out like from classroom teacher, I don't think that, because when I filtered out, I don't think I grabbed some of those other instructional folks. So that number actually might be higher. So I think we would be interested in seeing a cross-reference of that class lead money, like the actual number of people that would receive it versus the number of people that we originally costed out. I think that
School companies get class lead money?
school counselors get class lead money. Yes,
No,
no?
no, not as a, no,
I
it's
didn't-
not the same one.
Yeah, so I didn't think so,
That's why
but,
mental health facilitators have been struggling,
but
Can we bring up the
so it
statute?
depends,
Teacher lead, you got it.
but not everybody. I don't know how they're doing the list.
well, the school counselors, it's social workers, school psychologists, people that evaluate. Yeah, I don't think we can then. We have to pull out individually every single position that Brian just read out.
I think we've got the statute now. It's 1012.71. The Florida Teachers Classroom Supply Assistance Program. For the purposes of the Florida Teachers Classroom Supply Assistance Program, the term classroom teacher means a certified teacher employed by a public school district or public charter school in that district on or before September 1 of each year, whose full-time or job share responsibilities the classroom instruction of students in pre-K through grade 12, including full-time media and certified school counselors serving students in pre-K through grade 12 who are funded through the FEFP. The rest is just about job share. The term classroom teacher may also include administrator who holds a valid teaching certificate who is filling a vacancy in an identified teaching position on or before September 1. So I think that's our definition. It is arguably different than.
Yeah, than what the actual, so I think we have to use what you had read first, Brian.
Yep.
And
We don't have a list. We're back to where we
we're
started.
back to where we're at. So I guess looking at like Jessica and Tillay, like you guys that have been, I know all of you have been in the weeds of the upgrade, but specifically on the personnel side, I mean, do you have suggestions? Like how do you think we can do this?
So
Mhm.
my first response was, it's simple,
Thank you, Brian.
we'll do it through supplemental pay, and just because it goes through supplemental pay doesn't mean that it's
paid as a bonus or taxed as a supplement, but if it has to appear on a salary schedule, that negates that. So I'm trying to chat with JD about how we're brainstorming.
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
Short answer to
Yeah.
that. So I don't know what that would look like if it has to be like a published salary schedule. And then Mr. Warren, if you could tell me that statute, just because I want to look at the list of people that you have.
What was the
compared
original
to-
statute number that you read?
The one,
Yeah.
it's 1012.01. And it's subpart B, I'm sorry, subpart 2 with parentheses, and then it's A through D. 1012.01 brackets 2, A through D.
Thank you.
And that was in the statute with respect to the TISA that we're talking about. It was the same reference that was in there last year,
Mhm.
as I recollect. So I think we're back. I wanted to make sure we're agreed on the group first. And
Yeah.
so it appears I'm kind of coming back unless somebody directs me otherwise. We're going to continue to have to work out from the AAG 07
Well, and
forward.
Well, and I think that's where we do start because that is where people that just finished year 10, that's where they're housed right now. And so that part was looking at that was fairly straightforward. So if we're looking at AAG 07, and with OTPT
It would be in the group.
would be in that group as well. So then that would still work. So then the OTPT group would be from their BH on.
TPT schedule.
So the OTPT schedule, BH looked like it started with 10 years from just the personnel data. Which there's not very many people on that schedule, so, but just giving you that reference of where I saw it, at least it looks like that's where 10 years started.
We're not going to see it on this schedule actually, because this is just the letters. The years were on the other report. I was just trying to double check and reference the letter notations, but we can't see the years. What was in the report. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
and that's what I pulled, because when you have, because there's two AAGs, AAG
Yeah.
7 is where the people that are just finishing year 10 look like they're housed. So AAG 06, because those were nomenclature for a couple of years ago that we can't change right now.
And I was just trying to qualify or make sure what you said, not that it was inaccurate, but I like to see it.
Yeah.
That the student services didn't have another letter notation, that it was AAG 07.
Yeah, everything's AAG 07 because right now student services, while they're separate in our contract on paper,
Still-
within the system right now, they're still integrated.
And we're good.
Yeah.
So then where do we go from here? I think we've determined that AAG 07, that I'm looking at the value you
Mhm.
presented at 2,632 are the amount of employees that have 10 years or more experience.
Mhm.
And then we work backwards from there. You just did the math of,
Well, I guess too, I just want to make sure, because there might be more people in that list, because when I pulled the Excel sheet that Jessica dropped in, I had pulled classroom teacher and there was a classroom teacher designation. And then I looked at other, and then there was some pre-K that needed to be added in that were under other, some resource that have kids assigned to them that were other, so I added them. But I think, because here, I didn't realize that OT, PT would be in that litany of lists that Brian read out, and social workers, so I think that actually the number might be larger.
so that would impact.
So that would,
On the numbers.
that would impact our numbers. And so, and I can pull up this spreadsheet too, but
So is there a way for us to just take a pause? We don't maybe need to go to caucus. But
No.
Let's check that. Can we pull up those sheets
Yeah.
and
I can pull them out.
reevaluate our value of 2,632? And really what we're looking for here is we want to grab everybody that was in A through D that we just read.
Yeah.
So between parties, can we look at that and see what our numbers may be to compare?
Mhm.
We're different.
So on your sheet, while y'all are doing that, Heather, I was trying to figure out, so the 25 million is what y'all are saying is your K-12 funding. We're removing the 12.7.
Yes.
So what is this, the next one where we again remove 12.7, the exact same figures?
No,
District categorical plus the charter categorical adds up to 12,771,108. is that just happenstance? Or what are these district categoricals and charter categoricals?
So the first. Yay, okay, so the first, where you see the categorical total in orange, that's just so that you can see the whole amount. It's not part of the calculation. We only remove it. So that just shows you what the total categorical amount is for information purposes. Then we do remove district categorical, the 10,648,549, and then the charter categorical of 2,122,558. Those both together add up to the 12,771. It's not taken out twice, it's only shown in orange, so you can see the total categorical amount.
But 25 million minus 30 million doesn't equal 2 million. Wait, is it this is,
It's 25 million minus 10.6, 2.1, 2.1, 8.4. That leaves you with 2.1.
but the TSIA is actually up here as part of the categorical now. I don't see it listed individually. That's what I'm asking. Like,
It's not a categorical. TSIA is actually part of the funding for TSIA comes from the base student allocation,
correct.
but they do call out the required amount that we contribute to that. So it's not reflected as a categorical. It comes off your total funding.
No, I understand that. It's part of the 85 is, I don't remember the number, but like 43 of it or something is directed towards TSIA.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out why we got such different numbers between our requests last week and this today.
They're not different. It's just not, if you look at it, it's the same numbers. I put it into this format so that you could easily tell what the difference was. And we wanted to break it down. The numbers are the same, just the presentation is a little bit more different. And the format you got last week was based on specific questions you asked. So what JD and I did is we got together today and said, okay, these are the questions they were asked. We think this additional information will be helpful. Let's present it this way so the picture's clear.
Especially since it takes 10 million off the figure. And do you know where we are right now? Estimated fund balance unassigned?
It will be right about 5. That's assigned and unassigned total.
Do you know what the unassigned is?
This is important. So above this number.
If I look at 12, the statute 1012, looking at and just reading it again, because I heard Brian read it and I've read it a million times, but just reading it again in this lens, I almost think we can justify everybody, if we wanted to, into this category. Because there's people that advise students, even behavior interventionists are helping with. Where's the exact wording? They provide direct support, like, so it might just be because we cannot separate out, we might just need to, everybody with 10 or more years of experience in the teacher collective bargaining.
That's how
I think that there's only one way to do this.
because how are you gonna determine what a counselor does compared to what an interventionist?
Well, and a counselor is specifically in here, and then I think we,
Interventionist.
yeah.
I would.
they advise students, they help in the learning environment, so and we also cannot separate. So we might just need to, everybody with 10 or more years, take this 6.7.
I don't think.
And then start with our other folks and seeing what we can wiggle around and do. Because we are bound by this law from the legislature that we have to do it this way for this group of people. And we have to use the maximum amount that we can with benefits. So, I mean, that,
Yeah.
I don't see another way around it, especially with our system limitations. So that total. So looking at that.
That they just shoulder buddy. Thinking out loud, what I was doing over here is reading back again through what I know the statute says with respect if there's monies left over, we have to give a report of how we allocated that by January 1, 2021. That's not us.
No.
But we also know that we're having a discussion of perhaps including people that aren't necessarily classroom teachers.
Mhm.
I always think about audit issues or whatever. I'm not sure that we would be in an audit problem because we would have gone beyond, we would have had an agreement. That's what negotiating
Mhm.
is with you. And in the end, everybody who's 10 years up would have already gotten
Mhm.
what the statute says to less than.
Mhm.
I guess the only way they could come at us, they meaning if an audit problem would be, well, it would have been a greater value for
Yeah.
those defined as classroom teacher.
Well, and with audits, I mean, they happen years down the road and what are they gonna do?
I think if we document it,
Yeah.
and we have the best intention to identify who the group is and we agree on
Yeah,
it.
I mean, we're literally sitting here and we know the limitations of what we're in right now with system upgrades.
Because we're also talking about it's out of state experience.
Yeah.
Private and charter experience aren't supposed to count either. It's supposed to be
But
Florida.
there's no way to pull that out really either.
Classroom only get the money, and we know that
There's no way to do it.
So
to do that.
I did request a report and I got it, but there's no way to,
There's no way to figure. it
there's no way to tie it to SAP numbers when I got it. So we're working on trying to
Okay.
figure out if what we have has SAP numbers on it. And
Okay.
if we do, then we can share that and.
Okay,
that
cause
would
I'm,
give us-
I'm working some things over here to see if I can get something too on the spreadsheets I have.
We want to just take a 5-minute pause.
We can,
No, we won't go into caucus. We'll just.
yeah, we can just stay here and,
All right. And
okay,
we'll come back and share whatever we
all right.
bring together.
So for people that are listening, we're gonna go into caucus. We'll try to be back in 10 or 15. Cause we know 5 minutes is not gonna be 5 minutes.
At least you're realistic.
Thumbs up here. That's-
It's not going.
I know, video's always the slow part.
There it goes.
Are we good?
Yep.
Yep.
So while we were out, there were multiple conversations occurring up and down the table. And we recalculated numbers. And I'm gonna ask Stephanie to unpack her numbers, but basically we started with a reduced amount of the district TISA from 6.9 to 6.7. That was on the basis of the 200,000 of the charter, one charter that was hanging out there. And I'm not gonna take the math away. Walk us through how you got to your 1525. We'll put that on the record.
Right, so looking at the spreadsheets from the personnel file that Jessica sent last week. Looking at every single person in the teacher's schedule, in the teacher contract that's AAG 07 and has more years of experience past AAG 07 with 10. Was 3,589 people based on the spreadsheet current. And we know that that's still in flux, but 3,589. So based on JD's information today, that all of the charters are now reported -1 that they're still working through, which is a smaller one, not probably gonna be a significant move either way. Looking at 6.7 million total for the TSIA for Polk County Public Schools. So just looking at looking at a flat amount, 6.7 million divided by 3,589 is $1,867. Now that has to include benefits because this amount of money has to include the 22.4% benefit fringe. And so when you take and back out that, you do 1,867 divided by 1.224, you get 1,525. And so with the amount of money that the state of Florida decided to allocate, and I love that they put up to $3,000, knowing that they did not allocate any public school district enough money to actually get everybody that's
Small
eligible.
district, it might.
Ugh, probably not. And so, anyway, I digress. So doing a flat rate with the TSIA for anybody with 10 or more years of experience in the teacher contract, so not trying to carve anybody out because we logistically cannot, based on what the district team has said about the SAP upgrade. With the TISA allocation of $1,525, because we have to include the 22.4 benefits.
So that defines our classroom teacher group at a benefit of 1,525. The next discussion then, since we kind of agreed on the group and the value and the amount, is how could we get to the next place and how would this look in the salary schedules? And so one of the discussions had while we were at the table refiguring was it appears that we have the capacity to do a lump sum. Rather than a percentage at the salary level. And so what that would mean in theory would be you take whatever the value is for AAG 07, that would have an increase of 1525 to it. I'm gonna look down and see if anybody else wants to speak to the logistics or how that would work. But in the end, we should end up with a grid with an increase of 1525 from AAG 07 forward. That would be a part of the agreement. And are there any corrections to what I summarized? We don't think so.
Okay.
So really that encapsulates what we have to work with or what the statute provides for the TISA monies for 10 years and up.
Yeah, right.
Did you
So-
say one lump sum?
Yeah, we talked, yes, I said one lump sum and I don't want to take away the words from how Stephanie put it. She had visited with Ann and there was the discussion of, was it a lump sum? Was that?
No. It would be built into their salary schedule.
And-
So it would be
and a finite value.
1525 added into their current pay level.
Yeah.
So not lump
Yeah.
sum.
No,
I was saying, I think what you were saying was that when I talked to Ms. Pasco about, because our team didn't want to go down rabbit holes that would end up in dead ends. And so when we started having questions about logistics, when we were having some ideas, she had said that the system cannot add pay levels, cannot separate different schedules. We can't create new schedules right now. And so we have to work within the existing schedules that we have. And so she had said that uniform percents or flat rate dollar amounts
Right, not lump sum.
would be the only ways that we can do raises until we're fully implemented. And she had said steady state. So I'm guessing that's, I don't know what really that means, but I'm sure some of you guys looked triggered when I said that. Um, so, but we couldn't make any changes to schedules, within SAP until we were at steady state. And again, I don't really know what that means, but just saying what she had said to us.
And team, can we still go in and manipulate flat rate as we've discussed? Or is that, we need to review it and go back to the IT programmers, honestly, probably, and ensure, but that would be the plan. It would appear that it would be something we could present. Yeah, so let's just leave that as this, that's the present, that's what we're gonna present.
Okay.
Is a value of 1525, not as a lump sum, but as a flat rate to be
Added
added to
into
the
the pay
salary.
level.
Yeah, yeah. Or from AAGO7 up.
So now, go ahead.
I'm sitting here looking at you thinking, so the AAGO7 only for pay for performance or it would be
No,
grandfathered.
everybody,
So then if the letters would maybe.
they're all the
Still
same.
the same.
Everything's mirrored
So
now.
then it's
Easy peasy.
AAGO7 for the student services
Yep.
for the dean.
OTPT is the only one that has different lettering,
To
but
make sure, that's why. I'll make sure that-
OTP, when I disaggregate and look at their years of experience, because, and this is something we do, I think, need to talk about, having a placement schedule in our contract for them. And that has been living outside, so we do need to fix that. Thank you, yes. But when I looked at the data that you sent over, just looking at their current years of experience, it looked like that 10 or more years started at BH for them. And so that's why I said BH with 10 or more years. Because that's what it looked like. Now, whether that lines up with a placement schedule, I think we do need to sit down and hammer that out and bring that to the table. So I guess now the question is, we have almost 9,000 people in our bargaining unit, not just 3,589 people. And so we do need to talk about, well, what about everyone else? And when we came into this, I mean, none of the money was great, and it's actually pretty deplorable what our state decides to send to public schools. And I know you guys cannot, but I will use my bully pulpit for a minute. It's shameful that our legislature is starving our public schools at the expense of children to corporations. And that is what is happening in our state. And they think that they can continue to change the rules every year and keep us in a state of chaos. And they keep us in a state of fighting each other. And when I'm talking about each other, they want us fighting classroom teachers against non-classroom teachers, veteran teachers against non-veteran staff. They don't even mention support staff in their budget. They don't even see our support staff as people that are vital to our schools. Because their budget reflects priorities and values, and they do not value us. And they want us fighting each other and fighting with you instead of fighting the actual problem, which is the legislature and this governor who values wealthy people and corporations over actual working people in the state of Florida. But we do have to ask the question, what about everybody else? Because that is a third of our bargaining unit is left out of TSIA. And we are also cognizant that we are not the only employees in this district. We have bus drivers and custodial and maintenance and cafeteria workers and our school-based administrators and all of the people that make our system work. We're gonna divide $2.1 million between 10,500 people. Yikes.
But on that note, what is that number? If you back out the 3,589 teacher contracts who will be getting the TISA money, what does that leave with everybody else, our support staff, our NUG groups, our ASME? How many people is that?
So why don't I do this while he pulls numbers by
Mhm.
teacher, ESP, para? 'Cause
No,
I think
the
that's-
ESP, para,
and
bus
remaining.
drivers,
Oh, okay,
NUG,
by total, all of our total.
every.
Yeah. The total who is
Let's-
not eligible for
let's-
TISA,
Like we, remember when we started and I said it's a formula? And so we.
About
we can do per
10,500?
person or whatever.
Probably, it's, yes.
Yeah.
We have a report.
While he's looking at that, give him a minute.
Okay.
I wanted to take a minute, and Heather can jump in anytime, but when you look at the negative health fund balance of 45 million, that's a huge pitfall for us. I just wanted to put it on the record in the room that we have to pay $200 per month per person to make up the difference on that. And the cost on that for the union alone, for union PEA, all your people represented, is a cost of like 20,580,000. So, you know, I wanted to put that on the table and in the house, that is something that you haven't seen an increase, you haven't seen a plan change. I know that the committee is continuing to meet, but we're having to absorb that on this side. Heather, you want to add anything to those remarks?
Those are, so right now, those are estimates based on where our health fund is living. The board already has, over an $11,000 contribution per employee per month. So based on calculations, that's where the additional $200 would be to bring the health fund just to level funding. We are required, and we talk to the board every year about, we have to meet a 11208 filing, which is 60 days of claims that we have to keep in the bank. We have not met that. So what you have to do is pledge general fund dollars. And this deficit does not meet that 60 days. It only brings us to zero. So we want to point out that even though we do have $2,120,093 in new funding after we take out the categoricals, the charter, and the TSIA, we still have an obligation to cover the negative from the health fund until we are able to continue to meet and change that plan.
Thank you. Now, do you have some
What was
numbers?
the 3,000 number?
so I had 3,589,
That was the teacher, classroom teachers.
AAGO7
Yeah,
and more.
So do you have a total?
it's gonna be closer to
Do you-
9,200.
Okay.
So is that the total 9,200? For all?
That, for everyone that would not be included in TISA, so you asked for non-union.
Including,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Including NUGs, ASME.
9,200 other employees that would not. Or would have to be split between. Whatever.
So we're at 12,789 total employees, 3,589 we just talked about.
so, but was I hearing Heather saying that, sorry, was I hearing Heather saying that 2 million really should be reserved for? So what I'm hearing, and I just want to make sure I'm clear, is that y'all are suggesting either one, that all of your other employees will see a $230 raise for this school year, which works out to about $8 a month. That's principals, you all, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians, everybody. Or we save that for fund balance, and you're saying that the only money that you will be giving in raises this year will be this TSIA. Is that correct?
It's an estimate. Yes, those are two estimates for right now. We don't receive our final funding notification until July 19th. And if that is what occurs, once we complete closing the fiscal year, so we are still, the fiscal year closes June 30th. You have another month that you have to go through and reconcile your books. So we close that out, but best practice is to base raises on new money. So basing that on this, there would not be any money available for raises this year
For anybody.
for anybody.
that doesn't fall in that 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think we've figured out the TISA piece. We're going to, it's probably fruitless at this point to spin our wheels on the other parts until we have the July 19th. And we're gonna have to reconvene and discuss too. For our team, and I'm sure your team as well, on July 19th. When that final millage and all that stuff comes in, will you, either Heather, JD, or whoever, can we make sure we get reports of that once everything comes in and we know? Because we bargain on the 27th, and you know, we have to be at national convention, but we will be waiting for that, and we can disaggregate that while we're at convention. Okay. And so, because we meet again on July 27th, so I wanted to make sure we had enough leeway. And that gives us about 8 days to look at it.
What we send you is the form we submit to the state when we
Okay.
do the tentative budget, right? Tentative. So that's, I believe that hearing is July 28th.
Yeah,
So
so can we get that ahead of bargaining?
we should be able to get it to you the week of the 20th through the 24th, but we have to. I would say we will probably have the information around, the 19th is a Sunday, so the 20th at the latest, it takes us a day or two to prepare it. So by the end of that week, but the time frame is very tight.
Yeah, as soon as it's prepared, if you can send that over to us. I know we're getting it before it's presented to the board, but if we're gonna have any fruitful conversations on the 27th about money, we're gonna need that information. All right, so I know, Brian, you had some language you wanted to
Yes,
present
we're ready
today.
to transition and move into language. And
Can I have I wrote all over this copy. Can I have a clean copy?
we'll give mine all over too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what I said, I was gonna keep clean copies this time.
I keep pausing and hesitating because I'm debating whether we want to talk about this or not. That next bargaining session, the 27th, we've already discussed this, is going to be critically important. Because the TISA piece, and it's what Stephanie outlined at the very beginning with the statutory requirements and those kinds of things. We've been working very hard to try to, in bargaining, get to a collaborative place, and we've defined and agreed to a lot of things with respect to what the statute asks us to do at TISA. But we know that there's some hanging chads to get us over the next hurdle. And I guess specifically what I'm talking about is, we are seeking to try to submit that we have a GRISMOs. But I know that as I've sat at this table last year, there's a lot more than just the TISA. So we're trying to evaluate how that comes together. And I think I'm gonna just stop with that explanation, but we will be anticipating a lot of work to do to try to get to that end on the 27th. I don't know if you had any other remarks to make in that.
I mean, and I did want to say, and because we gave it to you guys last night, we wanted you guys to be fully prepared because we are an open book, right? And so we have a lot of topics we want to discuss. And so we wanted to make sure that ahead of the 27th, because we are going to start bringing language proposals as well, that involve class size and caseload caps, you know, parental leave, family leave, all of the things that we want to talk about that are important, so that you guys are prepared and have people here that like make sure Joe and Tracy are here, you know, make sure Tammy Williams is here for ESC conversations. And so that we had people here that are decision makers that can be prepared to talk about the things we're going to be wanting to discuss. And so we wanted to make sure that nothing was a surprise of the topics that we're wanting to discuss through open book. Because we also know that in lean years, that's where we also need to give on working conditions and make working conditions better for people. You know, we saw that in the 1920 school year when we did have to have a salary freeze. You know, we got lesson plan language. You know, we got an extra day of planning from PLCs, and so we're gonna have to be willing to have those conversations about working conditions. You know, if this is the bleak reality that we're looking at, we have to be able to give on working conditions in years where there's lean money or no money. So just wanted to preface that for the 27th.
Noted. I'm debating just jumping in where I know there's yet a great amount of work to be done on one single document. I've got a lot of different language changes across a lot of different articles. But how are we feeling about Appendix C?
We can start looking at Appendix C because we have Appendix C
And I've got
stuff
a
too that
lot
we'll
of
be
my team
bringing.
that's here today to give a lot of rationale and kind of feedback. Maybe we could continue our discussions because I know Appendix C was on your mind as well.
Mhm.
So why don't we hand that across and we'll
Okay.
start work on Appendix C.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
teacher
teacher
Appendix C.
The supplements.
Those are your updates.
I got some for that one too.
This goes to our group
Yep,
back
this
here.
goes our group. So there we go. The last time we got.
Okay,
Are there any extras?
Yes, there's extras.
Yeah, we got extras down here.
On there. Two more?
I think in the attitude of bargaining, I'll just walk us through what we're looking at. I will say that what you're gonna see is a summation of input that I've received from folks that process the supplements. I have received feedback from managers or directors from other departments, provided feedback. And so I just kind of wanted to walk back through. It is our intent that and hope that what we're going to present will provide more definition with respect to the questions that we see. Perhaps you see as well for who gets the supplement or how we pay it out, or who's eligible. With that being said, we'll just jump in. And by the way, these are soft copy. They've been uploaded in our shared drive.
They will be.
They will be. So you'll have them in the shared drive to work out from here. I'll start with the underlined section with in-school suspension teacher monitor. This supplement is applicable only to teachers and the following paraeducator, and that would be paraeducator basic ISS. It's position specific. And we're doing that because we've had a lot, it's been all over the place. And so this will provide a lot more definition. So if we're asked or your side is asked as well, this defines clearly who is eligible for that. No other paraeducator, ESP, employee, or staff member who is not listed in the collective bargaining agreement shall be eligible for the supplement and therefore shall not be assigned this duty. And not being assigned the duty helps us because of some of the other conversations we've had with principals, perhaps asking secretaries to oversee or otherwise.
So on that side of the house, then, we're gonna have regionals making sure that they're looking at masters and assignments. Because we're dealing with one too that we had, I don't know if it's reached Tracy yet, but I think we were trying to do it at a lower level. They were creating like a safety para, and I'm like, that doesn't exist. And so how are like just the mechanism to make sure that, because we don't want to be in a situation, I think, with the testing coordinators this year, where a school counselor was directed to do that work. And they're not a testing coordinator, but they did the work and we got the supplement for them. But how do we manage that?
And also with ISS, it was very common at the beginning of this year where principals were trying to divide it amongst a group of non-classroom teachers. And that's enough.
I think we've tried to curtail that here because we're trying to make it position specific and to the para ISS or to the in-school suspension teacher monitor. Tracy, do you have any remarks you want to add to that?
And their regular assignment and then I think there's regular assignment, if that's what we're talking about, but then there's also like, let's say your ISS person is out. What does that look like? So I don't disagree with you. I need to think through how do we prevent it? I think we've done a good job working together when
Yeah.
it does happen.
When we're notified, a lot of people don't
Yeah,
realize.
I understand. And then when we're notified too, that may just be getting more on the front end of it. I don't know that we've ever been explicit around that expectation. That's certainly something, if this shakes out, we can do
Okay.
at the back to school principals meeting. I don't think anybody intentionally does it. The only other thing I'll say, Brian, is this is gonna have to change because that position. No, the chief of high school is not. Either make it regional or chief.
We haven't.
Yeah, I heard her.
So that's why we're doing.
So
open
just
vote.
strike high.
No more than 3 will be paid except permission of the chief of high schools, chief of schools.
But there is no chief of high school. That's not the
I'm here to take your preference. You want to have it rest with your position or at the regional level?
It is, this specifically speaks to senior high supplement,
Okay.
so
And I think the ISS is a high school staffing piece, isn't
if you had it in middle school. I mean, that whole clause, no more than 3 students. Or 3 extracurricular activities, that would be across the board at any level, right?
Yeah.
So I would say regional superintendent. For this, that oversees that school to give that position.
it? I'm gonna make a note on mine and we can on yours as well, that we will remove chief of high school's permission of the regional assistant superintendent. Then we move into senior high supplements. You'll notice in practice, I struck in senior, middle and elementary, the school counselor.
Yep, because that's in there.
And I've checked and double checked because that's in their salary now. So I think it's time to remove it from the appendix. Then we go down to the dual enrollment piece. I took a lot of feedback from Ann Everett on this. Go ahead.
Do we have ISS positions in elementary or is it some elementaries depending on size?
They're all site-based budgets and then the stock. Some elementary that has a.
So there's some elementary.
Some elementary that
Okay.
So with the dual enrollment, Ann is on vacation. I wish she were here, but we can, if we need her to come and speak with more specificity later, she can. But what we found this year when she called me is we had folks that were teaching dual enrollment classes that they didn't have a master's. So it became a real problem because they weren't even certified with the requisite criteria to teach the course. So we're putting in there that they must hold a master's degree. And we also changed that to 1250, designated and focused and paid 1250 following completion of each semester. And that is so they're paid in duality at the completion of each semester. I'm not sure if it's the case, but some of the logic may be that maybe a semester course and it changes or otherwise.
And then they don't do it second
Correct.
semester, but then they don't do it first semester, but do a dual enrollment second semester.
Correct.
Question, because one of the things that has popped up with us is that some middle school levels are doing some dual enrollment. And so I know when we were looking at bringing Appendix C, one of the things that we wanted to create was another section that applied to all schools. So instead of having it broken up, and now testing coordinators are a great example, ITV, those types of things where you have it across the board. And so instead of having it in grade bands, just having one, and there are some that are grade band specific, but a lot of these kind of go across grade bands. And so creating a table that has those in there together, like your testing coordinators or dual enrollment, because it doesn't apply to elementary, but if it does apply to middle school, that way we don't end up in these situations that we have middle school teachers that are doing dual enrollment in some capacities. And then,
So Joe, I'm just confirming, we do have the dual enrollment in middle school.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that being the case, if we pull out a group,
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's small, but there.
and so to your point of wanting to pull out those that are across all 3 levels or otherwise, we could do that at a later point in time, but I'm gonna make a note here that, teachers of DE, we need to put in middle school as well.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying like the ones that are applicable. I think we just, and I know you guys do, but just making it clear.
Y'all will not be here one day and we need to make sure that nobody uses an excuse to not pay them next in the future. So,
Okay. Then we're gonna go to page 2 and you'll see yearbook sponsor. There's a lot of repetition down through here. And this is to just help with how the supplements for these positions are requested. Yearbook sponsor, we're qualifying one person per full supplement or 2 at 50. To try to provide some limits, so there's not more than multiple, or what is it that we can accommodate. We did the same for newspaper. You're gonna see over and over that we recommended one person per full or 2 at 50. You'll see the same for class coordinator. You'll see student council the same way. And if there's no questions, I'll pause at academic A team.
Well, I do have some questions, because I know the workload is different if you're at Haines City High School versus Frostproof Middle Senior, right? With yearbook and all of these, because it's just a smaller school. And so at Haines City or Winter Haven, any of the really large high schools, you might need 2 yearbook sponsors, and I'm using yearbook as an example, but looking at some of these, looking at bigger schools, one of the things we did want to talk about, and we're going to be bringing, is looking at the size of the school, if there is a need to have an additional supplement in areas that might need an additional supplement, or different ratios of positions. So
like the community service coordinator, it's one thing to coordinate community service and like she said, Frostproof, when you might have, I don't know how many they have, 300 seniors versus Haines City, when now they are responsible for doing that for now twice as many students.
just something to put in the room that we are going to be bringing.
So so you'll bring a counter at a point in time to review the one per full or 2 at 50.
Yeah, but since we're talking about it, we wanted to have that discussion
Because I
here.
could continue to hammer that out a little bit
Yeah.
more, but I'll wait until your counter. Let's go to 18. Must protect, and again, this was feedback I gleaned from Ann Everett, which was important. With 18, we need them to participate in at least 3 district-sponsored practice rounds and a tournament. That's a very important part, and I guess that didn't happen across the board equitably or with everybody, with all teams. And so we wanted to put that in. Then we go to National Honor Society. That's just the same. One person full or 2 at 50. Community Service Coordinator, I just mentioned that. This one, we need to be submitted to and approved by, I put teaching and learning, but I was speaking specifically to Ann's department. She said, we really need to see those, because there seems to be discussion. They want to review what the activities are and what's being approved to cover as qualifying for community service. And then again, you'll see must attend 2 meetings per year during contract day, and then 1 person per full or 2 at 50. The next one is chairperson. 1 person at full or 2 at 50. We have a lot of questions about, well, what qualifies as a chair and how do we define them? So we broke them out for your review and consideration. High school departments include math, science, social studies, English reading, business, foreign language, ESE, electives, and guidance. So we don't, if we get called on our side, we know a definition. If you get called, this is how that works.
Well, and another thing that you're gonna see from us, on the 27th, is that when we've been dealing with smaller schools, that may only have, 3 in a grade, they're still doing that work. Of a grade chair, the work doesn't change, they just might not have 1 more, and so we've been, I think in the past, working with Jessica's department, where paras that have been tied to that grade level can count substitutes, because I would actually argue that a grade level chair that has a substitute is probably doing more work because they're helping prep that sub, and that sub unit would count, because that's a teaching unit, it just happens to be a sub. So bringing some clarity to that, so that when principals are submitting this and people know up front that they are going to get this supplement.
So as long as, the way we do it currently, is as
Uh-huh.
long as there's an allocated unit, even if it is vacant,
Mhm.
we still count that, because at any time that person could be hired,
Yeah.
or there's a substitute in it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Brian, can we go back to community service?
community service, yes, ma'am.
For my teacher can learn, it actually comes to be less.
DOS, we'll make that choice.
Just A and I.
A and I. Let me go back here.
What's that acronym?
Must be approved by acceleration and innovation.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it doesn't.
Hmm.
You know.
acceleration
Innovation.
and innovation. All right, then if we're okay, we'll move on with district-wide student council is 1 per full or 2 at 50. Then we come down to school coordinator for district science fair. Departmental nomination with review by principal, and then department submits request for payment. I'm taking for granted that when I got this remark that there's confusion as to who submits the names for who gets the
Mhm.
supplement. But I needed the principal to be in a place to know who's doing science fair. And then when they're ready to receive that money, then it gets submitted by the department. And I'm gonna look down to personnel. Does that kind of sound right? Okay. And then the same, I won't be repetitious, but the same is the case for history fair.
Mhm. And before we go leave that page, just so you know, again, what we're gonna be looking at, when we go up to the top, toward the top part with class coordinator, we're gonna be wanting 9, 10, so 9 through 12, because you have school sponsors and class coordinators for 9th and 10th grade that are doing a tremendous amount of work for 9th and 10th grade, class sponsors, but aren't getting a supplement for it.
Is that gonna be a new line or is that?
No,
Okay.
so when you go up, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 down, class coordinator.
I see it.
So it says it's designated right now 11 and 12, but 9th and 10th grade also have class coordinators and sponsors. So making sure that we add in 9th and 10th grade sponsors to that supplement.
I would,
Yeah, wait for the microphone, please.
I'm not gonna say that shouldn't be considered, they should not be equal.
We
A
can have
junior
that
class-
discussion.
A junior class coordinator typically is responsible for prom,
Mhm.
which is a whole job.
Huge.
And then obviously your senior class coordinator
Mhm.
is responsible for so much, including graduation and all those grad activities. I've been a freshman class sponsor and a sophomore class sponsor, so I can appreciate they do fundraising and they do have officers, but it's not near the extent of the other.
Thank you. Then are we ready for the next page? This one, I have actually another proposal, but I'll tell you how it connects. The federal and district-wide specialist teacher resource, the 1,200 being stricken through. I was going to present this, as well, but I don't want to take the time, so I'm just gonna let you put your eyes to it. And I can hand it out. But basically, she's looking at Article 6.2. And it's been revealed to me that that language has, I'll say sunsetted and doesn't even apply anymore. It talks about TRSTs being a TRST 2 and 3,
Yep.
is it? And then it references a special value that comes from Appendix C. And so what's revealed to me is they're just all paid the same.
Yeah.
So I'm saying we need to take the language away for the 1,200 and do you want me to put that language out? I can hand that out to you. I've got the handouts
That's
ready to hand
fine.
out.
Yeah, go ahead and hand it out so we have it together with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of our TRSTs, we don't have varying levels of TRSTs
No.
anymore.
So that's more of a cleanup, if you
Okay.
will. And I don't know if I'm gonna split these right.
I'm sorry.
Well, then you hand them that way and I'll hand them that way. And we'll take the two back here. And when you do get this handout, you'll see the correlation of Article 6.2. And so when you read that, it connects with what's in Appendix C. So they really need to go together. So if you're gonna strike the federal and district-wide specialist TRST trainer at 1,200, you need to strike Article 6.210 as well. And did this get hit? There you go. And do you have my white copy of 6.2 so I can keep my stuff together?
Oh, wait, I wrote on it. I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
I'll make a note of it. Okay.
I got this.
All right. Okay. And so I want to make a note of what we presented today.
Oh, you.
I think I'm good. Thank you. Then we go down to the middle school again. We cut the counselor. You'll see yearbook sponsor the same as before, one person full or two at 50. Academic A team is repetitious of what we've already discussed. Same language, must participate in at least 3 district sponsored practice rounds and tournament. Middle school honor society is a split or one person full. Go to the next page unless you have remarks. And then we go to
Yep, thank you.
applicants.
That was gonna be on our list too, Jessica.
Yeah. And then we added televised instruction facilitator.
Yeah, that was on our list too. We realized that it wasn't listed. They've been getting paid because they've been doing the work, but we need to make sure that it's that in the middle school.
Okay. And then we have safe and drug-free schools contact person. We added at $500 and that's gonna connect, actually. That's gonna be a conversation that came from Audrey. No, Kelly, or am I talking about something else? That's another discussion. That was the
Okay.
one that we had to do an MOU on this year because we had high school, but not middle school.
Yep.
But so we added safe and drug-free schools
Okay.
contact person at 500. Again, for elementary, we removed school counselor. For elementary grade chair, the same philosophy, we added definition to what grade chairs are. They're defined as pre-K, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and if elementary, I guess there are some that are adding grades, so they might have a 6th grade. And then also including ESE support personnel, meaning art, music, PE guidance counselor, network teacher, not network parent educator. And again, that helps provide definition for how we pay these out and how we define who's eligible. Academic A team is the same as before.
Yep.
Honor Society, elementary instructional, TV, ITV, TV is the same, just the one full, 2 at 50. And then we are the same philosophy with drill, rifle, and raiders. 1 full, 2 at 50. If you're,
Just real quick on this page. With going back up to the top math count. First grade 6, 7, and 8. Who's eligible for that?
The short answer is whoever the principal provides us name that was in charge of that particular program.
Do we know how prevalent that program is right now? Okay,
I can tell you how many people have been paid for it this year.
how many people have been paid for it?
it's on there.
And then I also, while Jessica's looking that up, I know our JROTC folks have brought forward that it's gonna be part of our proposal. They're doing drill rifle raiders, but they've also started doing drone teams. And so we wanted to start talking about a supplement for our JROTC for drones. Because that's been a team that's been added to them. And there's some other things with ROTC that we'll be bringing later on. But since we're talking supplements, I wanted to make sure that you know that we want to talk about drones too, the drone teams.
And Stephanie, I just found an error on what I'm presenting. If you look up right under drama, there's $1,000 with no line, there's no,
Yeah.
It goes to
Please-
everybody, right?
please,
That's it. That's an everybody one.
please strike that. I think I was pasting and I think it was intended for the televised instruction facilitator. All right, are we ready to go to the next page?
Yes.
All right, the health contact. We added some definition here that it would read the eligible designated contacts must be actively employed as of May 1st and will be determined by the school administration and submitted to the health contacts department who verifies eligibility. The difference here, as you can see, the district-wide seniority among the 3 agreements is stricken. And we have had issue with this year and the fact that the folks doing the work don't align with the seniority or otherwise. So this follows, I would say, what is practice and what might be practicable for who's doing the work.
And I think another thing that, oh, I turned it off. Another thing with the health contact that we've been put on our radar, some of our bigger schools have had 3 people designated, but then we've only been able to pay 2 because of this language. And so we might want to look at, if we are looking at bigger schools and they might need more people trained, we don't want to have people being trained and doing that work and not paying them, or having the ability to have a mechanism to pay them. So that might be something we need to look at specifically with all of our high schools, our bigger middle schools and our bigger elementary schools that might need 3 or even 4 people trained as a health contact. Because when people are out, we have to still have people trained in that, because we have children that need access to those services and medications and things like that. So that's something that we wanted to bring forward and look at as well.
And you can bring that forward
Yeah.
on the counter. Then we'll go down to critical shortage subject area. We go through this every year with the report that comes from the DOE. And we're adding the language, employee must be scheduled for instruction, have students enrolled, and be certified in an approved course in the high demand teachers subject area as determined by district leadership and Florida Department of Education annual memo. I need to close the brackets there. But that's not smoke and mirrors or behind the scenes. So what happens is DOE sends us a list of
And that changes every
positions,
year.
and then those positions are connected to specific courses. And if you're not teaching those courses as that type of teacher, you're not eligible. And there becomes a lot of back and forth. So that's where leadership becomes a part, and it's just per the memo. And we go into the scheduling model to see what course numbers they're teaching on those schedules. Highly grandfathered, this seems without saying, but we get a lot of questions and it creates some angst for people that aren't on the grandfathered, why they're not getting it or not eligible. We just want to be very simplistic and state employee must be on the grandfather salary schedule to be eligible. Then we can cite it, reference back to it or otherwise.
And I would say with that one, an employee must be on a grandfathered schedule, because there's 3
A.
grandfathered schedules now.
Okay.
And that makes it clear that it's not just one. They can be on the dean grandfathered, the teacher grandfathered, or the student services grandfathered. And just to give some, for people that are listening, we had implemented these supplements back in 21 when the state was pushing TISA for brand new 0 years of experience teachers. We had an opportunity to be in line with statute and to give our more veteran teachers an ability to get a little bit more money when the state was screwing them over with TISA. And so that's kind of where that came from. And so it's important to make sure that our veteran teachers are taken care of, that are highly effective. And really everybody, but that's where that supplement came from.
So that finishes Appendix C.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep pushing through with just some that I have here. Some of them are gonna be easy, I think. But we're an open book, and we want our contract to be as accurate to reflect what changes have occurred in the system. So 6.3, city planning time, I want to go to next. It's gonna take us longer to hand out the paper than it is to go over the changes. So what's being handed out is Article 6.3 for planning time. No panic, there's no change to the language of planning time. We're not messing with that. But I do need everybody to look down at letter C at the bottom, because it did read previously that instructional staff will use the special activity payroll reporting process. We need that to be updated to reflect the supplemental pay application, which I think we all know we're using and how that works. So we wanted to update that.
And we're gonna be fine with that. Is there a possibility as we're doing cleanup for this part? Cause that special activity is mentioned several times in all 3 contracts, that if we agree to do like a control F for special activity, and we looked, and we'll double check to make sure that that's truly where it needs to be. But I think we would be okay with changing out supplemental pay with what's currently in there, because that's outdated.
Is there anything we're still using the special activity form for?
Well, I have language on special activity because I already have special. I have already control F'd it. And it's only found a couple places, which is why I came across this random one
Okay.
here. Because I'm gonna give new language about special activity pay here.
Okay.
But the form, are we using that for anything at this point?
Anything we would use that dollar amount or that wage type for is run through supplemental.
Thank you.
Why don't you go into
So they don't.
activity?
I'm not gonna say that the principal might not ask somebody to fill out a
But-
timesheet.
No,
They're still gonna have to.
But
go
it's
on
through
there.
the supplemental pay.
Stephanie, to answer your question, the number of people.
What is math count? Joe.
Shocking.
It's a middle school math competition
Okay.
that's held, it's actually national,
I
put on by,
gotcha.
the civil engineering.
Oh.
Through, and we have local, there's, each district has a local organization or
Mhm.
districts, we have it. And so 7 traditional middle schools participated last year, so there you go.
Okay, so would we be okay with adding math count competition?
Yeah.
Just to, because,
Yeah, the way it's, the program is written, it says math count
It's-
regional competition.
Okay.
All right, let me make that up. Math counts, plural.
I have no idea.
No.
Counts.
I
Competition.
always call it just math counts. Where are you at, Stephanie, on that?
It doesn't have a page number, but it's right before elementary.
We're on that.
We can put it in our calendar.
Yeah, we'll add it in when we.
All
when
right, so
send
we
the
want
counter
to say
over.
math count,
Math counts competition.
math
Regional.
count, regional competition, because when you bring your counter, I'm gonna go back through my notes, make sure we caught it
Okay.
as well. And do we want it count singular or counts plural, Joe?
Math counts.
Yeah.
I don't want to change the organization.
Okay, you should have now, I'll just segue from special activities since we changed it to the supplemental payout. You have Article 22 before you, and I didn't copy and waste trees on copying the whole article yet. But I want to explain a little bit about what's happening here. And the first one is really, I want you to check me and see if you feel the same way. I felt like 22.6 was repetitious and was already covered in 22.7, which was why I just struck it. I didn't think we needed it, but I wanted to take a moment and review that and see what you think.
Yeah, I think that's,
Because I felt like
That's
the
covered there.
technical colleges are already covered below where it says teachers of career education. I think everything's there. We
Mhm.
just, we said it twice in 2 different articles. And then what I did here, Stephanie, where you see 22.7-1, what I actually did was, this is now in the contract is 22.20 and 21. It just sits way down there. And I'm like, well, if we're gonna talk about hourly salary schedules,
mhm.
let's move these 2 items up there and make them 22.712, and then I'm gonna talk about 3 here in a minute. Because then you have the article that's already in language about teachers on approved extended contract who provide instruction, how they get paid at the regular hourly rate of pay. Then the next one talks about if they're required to participate in workshops or conferences, it's regular hourly rate of pay. And then we just flow right into the new one, which would be 7.3, which would be special activity pay. We get a lot of questions about how do we do
Mhm.
special activity pay? Is this eligible? Is this not?
Mhm.
And so you're gonna need to probably take this back and
Yeah.
chew on it, but this is a start where we would say special activity pay can be defined as compensation provided to instructional employees for performing assigned or approved duties that are not part of their primary instructional responsibilities, contracted teaching day, or job description, and which serve operational, extracurricular, supervisory, or organizational needs of the district or school. And so basically what we've said is daily rate of pay always goes to, like, if you're instructing, tutoring, or those kinds of things.
PD and,
PD. But there are some activities where you could be doing something after school that would not be related to your job at all, but you may be eligible for special activity pay. I'd say it's the exception. It's not a great deal of time.
Mhm.
But we do get into those places where we need to have a definition of when do we use special activity pay versus when do we qualify regular.
Are you, just as a question, this is reference to Appendix D rates for duties outside of your job description?
Yes, and maybe we want to reference that article in there again, or just lift that language again up here. Or if you don't want to.
We'll chew on, we'll take this back and look at
Yeah.
it, but I just want to be clear that we're talking about the Appendix D,
It's the same thing.
non duties related
That's
to
right.
your.
And if you don't want it in 7.3 or the new article, then let's put it down in the other place.
Okay.
Or we have it in both places, so it mirrors the
Okay.
language. But we really need help on defining special activity pay. Oh, we're doing good. All right. All right. Let's talk about our military next. This is the one that came up, so we're gonna hand this out. Military, it's Article 20.13. And now I'm.
In the paid leaves?
Cause I'm just going all over the place now. Military leave is.
Paid, in the
Yes,
paid leaves,
but I'm
20
gonna
paid
present
leaves.
new language specific to spouses. So when you get this language, the reason we're seeing it is I was posed a question several weeks ago by our chief of staff. And the question was specifically, hey, what do we have anything in place, or how do we handle when we have an active military member away serving our country? And we go through reappointments and maybe the position is cut or lost, or otherwise. I would offer, let's say they go on the displaced list, but there could be other extenuating circumstances where maybe they're in one of those categories where there are no positions and we're in a layoff until we find a position. So this language seeks for us to have a response to how we're going to treat spouses of active military personnel. And it's right at the very bottom of the article. And it reads as follows: the district recognizes the unique challenges faced by military families and shall provide priority consideration where lawful to qualified military spouses in hiring and internal transfers. And so basically what I'm trying to do is provide something in contract that allows us to move about the cabin if somebody's deployed and somebody's going to be losing income because of a position, loss of funding or whatever. That's the objective.
So just kind of like, I don't think this is the right word, but like a super seniority type situation where they have like a priority preference if their spouse is
If you
deployed.
wanted to call it that.
I don't think that's the right thing, but that's just kind of what popped in my head.
I would just like, in my mind, they're pictured as being on the displaced list and I'm gonna have to find them a position, and I have provision to move them in and find them a home because of that article. And, what was presented to me is this actually came up in a district here in Florida a little while ago.
Mhm.
And there wasn't anything in place. And so, there was some bad press that I can say on that district. And so I'd like to be ahead of that. So if we have someone in active duty serving our country and something happens with physicians and spouses, we have a way that we're able to, accommodate and honor that.
And would this, translate into the other two contracts?
I would say yes. I didn't do that, but I need to make a remark that we would drop this in the military leave sections for para and ESP.
Preferred placement.
She says, how about preferred
Preferred
placement?
placement?
Is in place of another word that we put in there?
Preferred.
Okay.
seniority.
Yeah,
Yeah. Preferred placement is a great way. I like
Mhm.
the way that sounds. And we'll make a note here. This will go into military leave. Okay. Oh, yeah, let's do teacher 14.2.
If you need to use up some green paper.
Yes. Actually, yes, and, we're trying to be responsible with our resources. Now, on this article, I've read it, I got a couple other people read it. I don't know how long it's been in the contract, but if I'm wrong, challenge me. But teacher 14.2 says an employee who meets the following criteria will be continued from year to year. It did read, does not have Florida DOE's teaching certification. And I'm like, that can't be right.
That's a pretty easy one.
Yeah, you think we could agree to that one?
Yeah, I think we're good there.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
I mean, I think we're good there. It's always fun catching weird things when you're looking for cleanup stuff. All right. It's very interesting. Okay.
All right, let's do 17.71. So as we're handing this one down, it's teacher article 17.71. And this is one where it talks about contract renewal recommendations. The superintendent shall submit the contract renewal recommendations for employment to the board for action at least 2 weeks prior to the end of the school year. I know you have other timelines you want to discuss in there as well. I read that last night. Any annual, and I struck or probationary, any annual contract teacher not rehired may appeal the decision. I struck probationary because it's a statutory piece. We already have a provision where we're reviewing them before we send them out. And I just disagree with the fact that there's an appeal process because the statute doesn't uphold the appeal process. So I'm putting that out that I
Just
like that one.
clarifying that last, I think it's the last sentence because it's all together. So any annual or probationary contract teacher whose position is eliminated, who would have been recommended for reappointment by his or her immediate supervisor if an opening existed, shall be placed on the displacement.
I didn't change
So we're
that
good with that.
intentionally,
Okay,
because we
good.
would have the discussion that you're a great teacher, the
Yeah.
position was lost. We don't want to lose you,
Okay.
we want to try to place you. That's why that was unchanged.
Okay. No, and I'm glad. I just wanted to make sure that that was not gonna come back and be like, oh, but okay, thank you.
Let's stay in Article 17, and remember I told you we probably needed to cap all these together. Let's go to 17.42. This one is gonna be regarding transfers. Take a little time to unpack this one.
That's good and split.
Figure it out.
I haven't been handing all the way back to Joe and Tracy, but we need to continue to make sure there's some in this too.
We have that.
All right. You got?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
It's good.
Okay. I'll start with 17.4. There's several here that I want to try to connect together as we go through. But a review of all of this transfer discussion really started with the way we were, how do I say this? Trying to comply with the contract in the new system by sending the emails about the intent to transfer and knowing that the new system is problematic for how that works. So if you look to page 2, that's where I'm starting is I'm really trying to get to a place where I can get rid of the intent to transfer piece, which is 17.42. But the more I continue to read this, it's connected up into the hardship transfer piece. So I just want to walk through maybe what I'm trying to do. It's intent to transfer is what I want to try to get away from. But as I'm here, I also want to talk about more language in 17.4 request for transfer, where these are non-hardship transfers. We talk about, we've already bargained this years ago where they move a semester, you apply. If there's not mutual agreement, you move the next term. We have principals mutually agreeing a lot.
Yeah.
Creates a lot of, movement, which is fine. That's the way we've built this. But what I'm wanting to create is not just the principals mutually agreeing. I need regionals to be engaged and aware of those moves as well. So that's where you see, unless mutually agreed upon by supervising or regional assistant superintendents. Because what that does is ensures with respect to that, everybody's aware. Typically right now, if they're mutually agreeing, I'm on email trying to track through, have you visited with your regional, have you visited with your regional or otherwise? So this just puts them at the front of that process.
So could a regional veto this then, even if both principals agree?
I would say in theory, yes, because of the subordinate structure of hierarchy. And then, not rushing along, if there are no other questions on that one, you probably have thoughts, but will be accounted.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts,
Yeah.
but we will
Alright.
reserve those for later.
Look down halfway in the middle of 17.4 where it says an employee seeking a transfer must complete the online application. We just got rid of ours applicant registration system. That's gone away. And so it'll just read in perpetuity online application from now on.
Okay.
Then we go over to page 2. And the second paragraph there, where we're talking about teachers who qualify for the hardship transfer. I put the last sentence to read as follows: an employee selected to fill an advertised position will be transferred on the 1st or the 16th of the month without respect to the date of being selected for the position and thereby transferred due to hardship. So what's happening in the system is the offers are made, but the system moves people twice a month. And I'm looking down to Jessica to make sure I got that right. I think the system is programmed really for two times a month is when all those actions occur.
So this is to prevent massive payroll errors, particularly when there's a work schedule change. So if I,
For example, am an 11-month counselor and for whatever reason, I have to be a 10-month teacher. Transferring me on a day besides the 1st and the 16th causes a massive payroll error because my work schedule is changing. And we all know we've been in a lot of meetings where work schedule changes and there's a lot of confusion about retro and what happens. And so transferring on these dates only will stop that.
Thank you, and you'll see that language repeated again in 17.6. For any of the involuntary reasons listed there, 1 through 11, I just embedded the same timeline for the same reasons that we just discussed.
I have a question.
Yes,
If a
Wait,
principal-
hold on.
Pass the microphone.
so they're karaoke.
Yeah.
So if a principal chooses to hold someone 20 days, and that 20 days takes me to the 2nd of the month, I now have to wait until the 16th of the month in order to transfer, so now I'm like a month and a half into this transfer period.
Restate your question again.
So a principal has the option to hold a teacher for up to 20 workdays,
So let's just say
which is a month.
I, the principal, offered the position to you on the 1st of the month. Okay.
The releasing.
But as the
principal-
releasing principal, I say, I can't find anybody. There's 517 vacancies.
That's
in
an
the
easy
system.
answer.
Okay.
On this type of transfer for the hardship, the 20 days is the 20 days. That's the way we had programmed it. Are you talking about the hardship transfer provision?
But they're in the same section.
It's in the same, I mean, it's in the same section, so it's in the paragraph right above this insertion right here.
Again, are we in 17.41?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, that's easy, because I can tell you the 20 days prevail on that. And the reason I know this so well is because the language wasn't in there before. And so we had the provision and the right to hold a position until we had a replacement. And then this language was added for the 20 days.
Sure.
So the 20 days is the timeline
Okay.
for them
Okay.
having to come out.
Okay. So so a principal can request, just play along with me for a sec. It is September 2. We'll pretend it's not Labor Day. It's September 2. And that's when my 20-day clock starts.
Mhm.
That takes me into October 2. it's past the first, right? Are you?
So now I have to wait till the
So
16th.
now, according to this language, now I have to wait until October 16 in order to transfer? Is that what this is saying? A releasing principal can flex their full 20 days. And then because of systems, and I understand what this is trying to fix, 100%. Now I can be held another 2 weeks.
So I think, Brandon, what I want to do is just maybe go back and think about that some more.
Okay.
You do bring a good point.
Mhm.
By my progression of dates, the 22nd, you should be on your way. But by the way the system is moving us on the 1st and the 16th, you wouldn't be able to move until the 16th of October.
And an easy fix for that.
Move your mic up.
And I think an easy fix for that, which we might provide in a counter, is 20 days or the 1st or 16th, whatever comes first. And that it's messy right now, but that's the intent right there.
Yeah.
Or maybe on the next 1st or 16th. But yeah, that's kind of conflicting there, because somebody could be held now a month and a half. And in a hardship, they have a hardship for a reason. We need to get them moved as soon as we can.
So bring us back a counter that you want.
Yeah, we'll kind of flesh that out.
Wait, so like, I think the concept is.
We're okay with the concept because it has been a problem.
Yeah.
But we also don't want somebody staying if they've been eligible for a hardship, they've been offered a job. We don't want them to have to stay an extra 2 weeks just because we missed a payroll cutoff. So we'll talk through, and you guys think through that too. And maybe we can workshop that language together.
Okay.
Jessica, on that one, would the first workday of the new pay cycle be cleaner? So then they would be transferred upon accepting on the first workday of the new pay cycle?
Because if the first is the Saturday, you're not doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
First workday of next.
Of the next pay cycle, so that they will be transferred, upon accepting a position, they will be transferred on the first workday of the new pay cycle.
Another easy one.
Well, and we wanted, while we're on transfers, give me 1 second so I don't miss my thought here. So one of the things that we wanted, that we will be bringing, for 17.4, just for you guys to kind of be chewing on too, is having a codified cutoff at the semester of when a job has to be accepted. Because right now that is very ambiguous, and then it's unclear, and then we have internal processes that you guys have to do before winter break and things like that. So we, and whatever that might look like on your end, something reasonable, we were thinking somewhere along the first week of December, but if you guys looking at your system, but I think we do need a clear date so that people understand that they have to have a job accepted by this date, so that personnel can move them for the semester change.
And also, we're gonna be talking about a timeline for personnel to review the hardship transfers. Because right now, technically, y'all could take 6 months to even look at them. There's a timeline once you start, but that start is the problem.
We would lean into the timeline, but it's never intentional to.
Yeah.
The fact that we have sometimes just more than one thing going.
I got
But also having that clearly defined so that things don't get slipped through the cracks when people are applying for hardships and they do need a hardship to be reviewed, that there's timelines to review that so that they have an answer. So we were gonna be bringing that, but since we were talking about this, giving you guys a heads up of what we're gonna be looking at.
Well, I've already started your drafts of the articles to work from.
I love it.
We're going to teacher 20.13. This is real simple. Oh, hang on here. We were in rooms early on when the SAP upgrade started, and we knew there was going to be changes into how information was going to be presented to teachers. And you know what, Stephanie, this may need to go across teacher, ESP, parent.
I think.
I missed it.
Yes, it will
Um,
have to go through all three.
So basically what we're saying here is each teacher will be given not written notice, we just got rid of written.
Mm-hmm.
Will be given notice of his or her accrued sick leave in real time, period. And so in EC, you can look it up anytime, it should be right there
Mm-hmm.
all the time.
And it processes it like when I put in for a sub and a stop and the next day I'm out, it's gone.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be approved by the principal secretary anywhere.
I'm sorry, was that a question? or
Yeah,
statement?
no, that's
Okay.
the question.
So just to be clear, because I haven't seen the principal secretary process inside of this. So if I put in for a sub tomorrow and then I'm out. Is there an approval process? Someone have to touch that, or is it automatically removed in that sick leave bank?
So the.
The process in ASOP doesn't have anything to do with EC.
Correct, but then I'm not there.
So you're not there. So
Yeah.
when your leave is entered, either by you or whomever enters it on your behalf, then that, at that time, then the leave disappears. So
Okay.
yes, it is, I don't wanna say
It's a
live, because
real time
somebody
thing.
has to enter it.
But as soon as it's entered.
Correct.
Okay.
As long as we have time, I'm gonna keep throwing paper. Mr. Hyde said to use all of our time as efficiently and effectively. as
I
we can.
concur.
Evaluator, Article 15. The next one is a simple strike through, but a more complex ask. And it's out of Article 15.2, and it's where basically it says that the evaluator may be either the principal or an assistant principal designated by the principal. And then there was the statement where it says if an instructional employee requests, he or she shall be evaluated by his or her principal. We're finding that we're creating a ton of movement in Journey and in the system. I could get you more data, visiting with some of our contacts that we were in TAC with today. I know I'm here with you. I know how some of those situations arise. But I want to throw this out there, and that's why we're here, that we're bargaining. So if you could take it back and look at it and just see. But I can give you data on how that works or how many, if that is meaningful to you.
I mean, you can provide the data. I know this is one that we're probably not gonna take up, just because we know how important it is when, and I've been in the situation myself. Where we've had an administrator that was targeting a whole department. You know, and we requested that the principal do our evaluations, and because it was an AP. And so I think that while I hear you, I think that for our teachers that are in situations where they do have to go to the boss. And sometimes the boss is the problem, which is a whole other problem, but when we can have that mechanism to where the boss on campus can do the evaluation if the employee is feeling that they're not being treated fairly, we need to have that mechanism.
If the buck stops with the principal at every other occasion,
Microphone.
then it should also stop with the.
And, you know, I think we feel very strongly about that, because the buck does stop with the school principal, you know, in a traditional school, or the head of schools, or the supervisor, that is the boss. And so if there's a problem with an AP, I mean, that also tells the principal, I might need to address the AP's behavior. And so we were very hesitant, if not outrightly rejecting this. We will talk to our team, but I feel personally very strongly about keeping this in. And looking at some of my colleagues' faces, I think they feel the same way as I do. Sorry.
I just want to, I mean, to me, I just kind of want to rebuttal what Stephanie's saying as a teacher who does get evaluated. And while that issue is there, sometimes what I feel is the feedback reflective that I get from an administrator. Whereas I may value the feedback from one administrator over the other, not simply because of who they are, but sometimes you get your journeys back and it's just your EPC rating. Well, what does that really tell me? So you said I'm effective, you said I'm highly effective, but there's nothing in the comments. So sometimes, yeah, I'm saying, you know, what? I want my AP to do it because I know I'm gonna get comments, I'm gonna get real feedback and not just a rating. Or it might be the vice versa. So, I mean, that's just another aspect that to me, that I would say.
Thank you for your feedback and our presentation, and we'll look forward to your formal rejection. Looks like it's gonna be a rejection. Let's go with Article 22.1-1. This is one we may take a minute to unpack as well. This is one I'll put Jessica on alert. I kind of wanted to throw out some numbers and data. So when we started into this several years ago, I feel funny to say that I've been around here long enough to remember. We were doing spreadsheets across schools for extended contracts
Yeah.
because we were needing work done by different staff, but
Yeah.
specifically school counselors or otherwise. The group
Yeah.
that's mentioned here, mental health, facilitators, school counselors, social workers, that group. And so we would do those extended contracts on the spreadsheets. And then we came to the conclusion that we had all these schools of different sizes and some school counselors at smaller schools still wanted to work, they could go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So this was a good fit at that time. And so we came up with this idea that the standard contract would be 216 days and people could elect annually to go to a lower contract of 196 or to a 10-month or to a 12-month at 247. What we found by practice is the data of selection
Yeah.
has brought us to a place where we want to discuss not having so many options, because the effort and the time and the person hours that we put in, following up with the staff and then following up with the principal, and then there's a regional piece behind this as well, takes hours. And so what you're seeing here is a change that is really the same between school psychologist and the mental health down below, where it basically says that, let's start down, if I may, let's start with the school counselors, because they're a little bit different. The standard year of employment for social workers, speech language, mental health, and school counselors is 216 days. Then we go in to say extended 20 days over regular 216-day contract may be available at the discretion of the associate superintendent of HR. Each new school year, if submitted to the associate superintendent of HR annually by July 1st, or the employee will work the standard 216 contract day for the upcoming school year. So what this does is we only have a request to extend. Everybody's already sitting at 216. There's no choice election for 196, you know, like we have been going back and forth. And then I will draw us up to school psychologists, where there we say the standard year of employment for them is 216. Same language, extended 20 days over 216-day contract may be available at the discretion with the same dates and the same provisions. Jessica, can I put you on the spot for some of the survey results and what you learned?
So we have somewhere between 300 and 400, depending upon the year and depending upon the time of year, of folks who sit in this student services group, right? Whether they're school psych or the other group. And so every year when I do the survey, what I glean is there's usually anywhere between 78 and 84 people who respond. I can tell you that of those people, about anywhere between 8 and 12 elect to go up to 12 months. And everybody else elects to go down to 10 months.
So say that number again. So you said you had about 70.
Between 70 and 80 or 75 and 85 people who make any selection at all.
Okay.
Most people don't make a selection because they're good for
They're
their
gonna
11
stay.
months, right? Of the 75 to 85, about between 8 and 12, depending upon the year, and I'm thinking of the last 3 years, they ask to go up to 12 months. And then the rest of those folks ask to go down to 10 months. And I'll tell you that sometimes the supervisor, the principal, whomever approves that, and sometimes they do not get approved. So just because they ask for 10 months, it does not necessarily mean they will get that schedule. This year, for the first year, I had more denials of 10 months than I've seen in the past. And when I say more, maybe like 5 or 6 more, not like 12 to 15, 18 more, but those are the numbers that I can share for the last 3 years.
Okay.
There's some people who don't want that decision yet, how that is.
Mhm.
So I hope that provides context to the language.
Yeah.
Put some data to it.
And Jessica, did you share with us the specifics of those people that elect to go down to 196? Because I'm concerned, I mean, the 65 people in the grand scheme of things doesn't seem like a lot of people, but to those people that might have childcare issues or things like that over the summer, they might be single parents that can't afford childcare over the summer, so they have to be off when their kids are off. So those are the types of situations that I'm thinking of, that those are probably why they're electing to 196. And so in the grand scheme of things, 65 people is not a lot, but it is impactful to those 65 people. So we'll need to talk through that with our team, and I would be curious to see who elects down so that we can maybe dig into that. And maybe are there options that if there are extenuating circumstances, like people want to be a school counselor, but they might have a situation, there might be a custody situation, things like that, that they can't help. You know, but just in general, like, you know, because I know when we had first changed this, you weren't in this position. I think Brian was at the table then. But we had elementary counselors that were working 196, but a lot of our secondary counselors had extended contract for 11 months. And so we started looking holistically of what the job was turning into and why we had, instead of just extending contracts, just make them 216 so they get an extra sick day, you know, and things like that. And so there are people that were on that schedule that wanted to stay 196, and that's why we had done this the way we did. So we weren't harming people that were used to that 196 schedule. So those are just some of the data points that I would like to see.
Stephanie, wasn't recently when
So another thought I was having as that dialogue was occurring. You can hear that there's a whole lack of response, right?
Yeah.
Against the total number.
So they're okay with
So
the 216.
Then the other point I would argue, for us, it's not worth the person time, the hours we put in. So perhaps there could be a discussion of your schedule remains as is unless you submit change within the timeline of what I presented. That might be something else. And looking down on it, that's crazy, but
Well, and maybe, is it the same people each year that are requesting 196?
So this year, when I was looking at the changes, I did look at that to see, it's like, is it like always the same people? And there are a handful that are the same, but there are some that this is the very first year they've ever done it and they never did it before. Or there's people who've always asked for it and didn't ask for it this year. And so when I think about the pros and cons for the
Yeah.
employee, right? I think about the margin for error, if I work at school A and my principal says, yes, I get to work 10 months, but then I change schools, that's no longer the case anymore, right? Because that school may not, that wasn't, it's because
Yep.
it's approved by person.
By work site.
And by the person on the work site, not, it doesn't, when you transfer it, that goes away, right? So there's a lot of room for, again, overpayment, underpayment, work schedule changes, things that really ultimately negatively impact our people.
Yeah.
And I know we've all sat across the table and talked about this a bunch of times, and so for me, it's not about the time and the hours, it's about making sure that it's consistent for our people. Because it does get really confusing for them when they made a plan, they decided their principal retired, they didn't know. Now they've changed schools, they thought they're working 196 days, they've gone to a new school, now their work schedule's changed and they're stuck.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's where I'm coming from when I say that if we could have some consistency, that would be great for them.
And I don't think we're opposed to that, because we do have to work out some of those overpayment, underpayment situations. But I would be curious to see about the people that consistently choose that schedule.
I can get you data over the
Yeah.
last 3 years, and I can get you even this year specifically, like, who will change from
Yeah.
one to the other. I have.
Cause we've done it now 23, 24, 25, 20. So we've had 4 years of data.
Yeah,
on
I
this
don't
now.
have it the previous, but I have it the last 3 years.
Okay.
that I've done it.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 more minutes. Let's go ahead and hand out the progressive discipline. So what I wanted to hand out here was, as we've worked with your team a lot across the 3 contracts with respect to discipline, progressive discipline. I'm not looking to change any of the steps or otherwise, but there is discrepancy in the fact that the language is not the same between teacher and para and ESP. And so what I'm seeking is to make them the same, and I copied the teacher language of 4.41. And then the para, you can see there's language in para and ESP where it speaks to the fact that the steps 2 through 4 are copied to the Director of Labor and Employee Relations, the regional, and PEA. That is not in teacher. It's not been in teacher for years. I'm asking for consideration to make all contracts read the same, removing it from para and ESP. If the thought would be that you just want to add that language to teacher, I would rebut that. Because the issue and the concern I'm having is the fact that I'm having this language in contract to present you as an entity with progressive discipline people that now I'm not even sure who you represent or not with the way the new system is set up. So I would argue that's an issue of perhaps some folks don't want that shared with other people or otherwise.
Well, and we also, there's, I don't have the article numbers off the top of my head. I'd have to look at our agenda, but there's some things that we've seen in this vein that are in the ESP contract, but aren't in the teacher and the para. So we'll provide a counter because there's some things that we found that we need to clean up as well. And so let me just write on the top here. Okay, thanks.
And then it's perfect timing because this is my last one. This is fitness for duty. And for those in the room, the last several we've talked about is across all 3 groups. And this one's going to be across all 3 groups as well. I know Stephanie is aware and I know Brandon and Kat and Nadia, we're seeing an increase in an uptick on fitness for duties. We do quite a few. We do physical fitness for duties and we do psychiatric fitness for duties. Typically those occur when we're having challenges with respect to folks that there's a concern they can't do their job physically, or they're behaving in a way that makes us alarmed. Perhaps they need some EAP or this time away. And so what we're seeking to do here is to update our language to reflect more what's happening by practice. And Eva Rodriguez is our contact in our office that works closely with this. Is she here?
She is not.
But I want to give her credit because she took time reading through this and offering these suggestions to us to reflect on for fitness for duty. So basically here you can see that the superintendent may require the physical fitness for duty, psychiatric evaluation by a physician and or psychiatrist licensed in Florida when we got rid of the language in its judgment section, examination is relevant to their work, to be replaced by the district has reasonable and objective concerns that the employee's ability to safely or effectively perform the essential functions of their position is in question. We go back, the job description is heavily pulled upon there. There's also a questionnaire that goes out from the entity where they have to answer all kinds of questions as to what concerns they're seeing and how those tie to the performance functions of the job description. The next section, you can see we struck the selection of the physician with 3. Let me just read it all. The selection of the physician and or psychiatrist shall be made by the employee involved from a current list of no fewer than 3 practicing physicians and or psychiatrists who are not employees of the employee health clinic named by the district. You know, I made a remark about Mary Ann earlier today. When we started this way back, that was her concern because I think back when we started this, we were actually using folks with the clinic. Now we're proposing language that the fitness for duty evaluation shall be conducted by a practicing physician and or psychiatrist who is not an employee of the clinic and who is selected and assigned through a district contracted third-party fitness for duty service provider. Then there's just new language. Neither the district nor the association shall select the evaluating physician or psychiatrist and the evaluator shall have no prior treating relationship with the employee. The process is intended to ensure neutrality, eliminate bias, and obtain an independent assessment of the employee's ability to meet the requirements of the position.
And Brian, real quick, on the not an employee of the health clinic, so the district would be incurring that cost to see the doctor then?
Yeah, we incur all of it right
Okay.
now.
And is there a cost to the contract that it says district contracted, is there like a contracting cost?
Or just
Just
for?
It's a per visit
Per visit.
cost. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a set rate for the physical fitness for duties and another set rate for the psychiatric. They're typically the same irrespective of the evaluation. Well, it doesn't change for you versus Stephanie, so it's the same.
Yeah,
all
But
the
there's
time.
no writing.
But there is a
contract
different, the
fee.
psychiatric evaluations are much more costly.
Yeah.
Than the physical fitness for duties. Then we're down to LER shall be responsible for scheduling the fitness for duty. With the contracted provider, the employee should be required to timely respond to and cooperate with LER for purposes of scheduling, including being available to review appointment details. The employee shall complete all medical releases, questionnaires, and documentations required by the contract provider to conduct the FFD evaluation. Once the appointment is scheduled, LER shall notify the employee of the date, time, and location of the evaluation. Upon confirmation, attendance at the scheduled appointment shall be the employee's responsibility. Employees shall be compensated for time spent attending the fitness for duty evaluation. And I'm going to pause here because they may still be at work if they're physical fitness for duty, or it may be that they're out on a PAL.
Yep.
It can go either way, but I don't want to say it's the same for every case. The next one, and either way, if they're on PAL, they're paid. And so if you're away from work for the
It would
evaluation,
just be a
you're paid.
TDA.
Right. Failure to attend a scheduled FFD or cancellation within 48 hours of the appointment may result in the employee being responsible for the late cancellation of no-show fees. We have had this happen, and so it's not fair for us to assume responsibility for, a $3,000 evaluation just because they elected not to show up.
Is that clearly communicated to the employee?
Well, it would be with this.
Okay.
We don't have that provision right now,
Okay.
We are speaking with them, we're emailing them, we're ensuring they know where to go. Sometimes they just don't show up and then we have to start over again. And I'm in a position where I'm needing to get that evaluation done, because you folks are calling me, or we're trying to get them back to work. But, I would like some responsibility on the employee there. The district shall pay all costs incurred in the examination exclusive of any late cancellation or no-shows. That answers your question with previous as well. And so you can review, I think, the other three, but they're gonna be synonymous, they're gonna be the same.
So I do have two questions on that before, or actually three questions on that before we go. So back at the very top, the district has reasonable and objective concerns. How is that, if it's objective, we have a list of usually criteria, like how is that defined so that if somebody is put on a fitness for duty, what does reasonable and objective mean? Like, as far as what criteria are you
Reasonable
using?
objective to me, to us, is what we see. I'll just give you physical examples. Maybe it is a person who is required to get on the floor with little people. And they can't physically get down and do the things we need them to do. Or maybe they don't have the strength to secure the little person while we're changing diapers. And so that puts us at a risk and a liability. And so then we would say, well, this is what we've observed, this is what they've stated to us.
Okay.
And we need to have them evaluated to see if they can lift this certain amount of weight and to do these things respectfully. The psychiatric pieces go lots of different ways. Sometimes people have thoughts of self-harm. They will tell a colleague. Sometimes they threaten to harm others. It goes many different directions. So that would be the objective piece.
And would that be in their fitness for duty letter?
It would
would
be
outline
in the
that?
letter and or the application to the provider.
Okay.
And I will tell you this, because there have been times we've gone into requesting a fitness for duty and really we don't have enough, we don't have the details. So
Yeah.
there's also a backstop there of when the providers are reviewing it, they're like, there's nothing here for us to work with or see. So then we send them back to work and we move forward.
Okay.
But this is a very important process to us with respect to the liability or otherwise. Linda's still here. Do you have any remarks you want to add to this respect?
Yeah, there's a lot of liability on the psychological as well as, the physical. the physical is not only for their safety, but as well as our student safety, of course. And I would say also, and I haven't done this, but on workers' comp, I've had a lot of times where I've had to prepay for services, because some specialties are very hard for me to get, and people just refuse to show. And I end up eating that cost, which comes out of our budget.
Yeah.
So I would like to, the union's cooperation, and of course, I'm not looking at personal emergencies, okay? I'm looking at people that just don't show up for care.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's a hardship for us. I mean, this is their, work-related injury. We're trying to get them care. And we're having to pre-schedule and prepay these fees, and I don't get them back from the providers. And people just don't show up. And it's a serious financial consequence for us. It does add up over time. So, I have not been charging for that, but, as budgets continue to be a problem, I mean, we always make sure that people have enough advance notice and know where they're going and all of that. But I think in the future, I may need to look at doing that, because it is a concern for our budgets, and making sure that people get, and obviously it's quality care too. I'm trying to make sure that people get the care that they need too. But it's a real safety concern for the employee and the students.
So, but right now, this is just for fitness for duty, not workers' comp.
Correct.
Okay.
FFD only.
Okay.
But what I wanted
Yeah.
to do is the prepayment is what I wanted
I
to
see.
address. It's very similar on workers' comp,
Okay.
because it is very hard to get people to take workers' comp. And so often we have to prepay, and Brian does the same thing for a lot of these services. You have to prepay in
Yeah.
advance for these things and schedule them in advance.
I think Dr. Williams has to remark about FFDs too.
Oh, yes. I believe we all know this, but I'm gonna state it out loud, devil's in the details, so to speak. So because the evaluations are comprehensive.
Yeah.
We take the recommendations of the evaluator. So we may know about one issue, but it's a comprehensive evaluation, and we may come out of that evaluation with 3 or 4 issues, something else identified that we didn't even know about. So I don't want everyone to think that we're only looking at one. We may only understand one going in, but there may be 3 or 4 issues coming out. And then we do take that into consideration.
Okay.
Can I just add to that? And that's very important, because we can be charged with negligent retention. If something is brought out in a report and we don't address it adequately, we can end up with someone that ends up harming someone if we don't address it appropriately. And that's very concerning for an employer. And that's when it comes to my side of the house. And that's very concerning if that comes out later, because we can just hand over a checkbook. And that's very concerning. We have to take that very seriously.
Okay. My second question is about halfway down, where it says, Labor and Employee Relations Department shall be responsible for scheduling the fitness for duty evaluation with contracted provider. The employee shall be required to timely respond. So, timely can mean different things to different people. I think that having a clear definition of when they have to respond would probably be, because clear is kind.
Within 24 hours.
Or something like that, maybe within 48 or 72 hours, something reasonable, but it's a time is actually codified. Because again, timely means something very different to other people, and we want to make sure that we actually probably have something more objective.
Do you have a preference of
Business-
24 to 48?
Business hours.
Maybe 72 business hours to give them some time.
Okay. This is our new, there's a lot of activity here. I'm very, I don't know if the word is concerned, but we're seeing a lot of cases come through here. And it's interesting, the reports as Dr. Williams was offering, and I know we're past time now, we're almost at 5, but, and I know Stephanie's aware, because we've worked through cases where we get a recommendation back on some folks. And sometimes they need to be away from work. And so I've had you out on PAL, but I can't continue to have you on PAL while you're taking what a psychiatrist prescribes that you need to take time away. So we're trying to work within the contract as best we can for allowing them to be out without pay. I think the last one, it was a contradiction of terms that we had, it wasn't a suspension without pay, but it was we
Yeah,
wanted to change it.
it was a situation we really
It
hadn't
wasn't
dealt with
disciplinary in
before.
any measure, but we're looking for the right way to code it in the system they're helpful and they would be welcome to use their own sick leave or whatever through those periods. But there are times that these result in that they have to be off for a while. And I hate to say it, but we can't bring them back because the psychiatrist wants to see them again before we can bring them back. So there we are at another
Yeah.
cost. And sometimes we're
Yeah.
in by $7,000 or $8,000 deep
Yeah.
before we get done on some of these cases.
And my last question with this before we wrap up, because I know some of us do have heart outs and we've got to talk to our team. So if it's regular EAP services, not psychiatric services, because EAP doesn't really get into that. Do we use our employer provided EAP for like lower level? And again, that's not the right, but for lower level, like mental health versus like something that might be elevated to a psychiatrist?
Well, we do referral, we do use it for management referrals.
Yeah.
And we do, and I encourage, staff to refer when there are issues that we're not sure. And we do management referrals, because sometimes, to be honest, there are issues that we need to have handled, and the employee needs some help, right?
Yeah.
And the manager may need some help too, and that helps us also give the employee some resources, right? If they're dealing with anger, if they have something going on at home, it can be interfering with work. It gives the employee some tools as well.
Okay.
So,
And we're seeing a mental health crisis, not just in our children, but in our adults.
yeah, and they just may need some coping skills, so.
Well,
So-
and we have financial stress that has mental health pressures. There's a lot going on.
Well, that's
right
why, that's why we did the comprehensive comprehensive campaign on the EAP as well.
Yeah.
Right, I have no more presentations and we're 2 or 3 minutes past time. And so do you want to take us offline and offer?
Yeah, so we will come back. We will be at Jim Miles on July 27th from 2 to 5. We will be live streaming it, but we also welcome people to be in the audience. We're getting into language. We had a lot of cleanup today, and then we're gonna be bringing a lot of the meat and potatoes that our folks have said is important to them, class size caseload caps, parental family leave, lots of other stuff that we want to hash out and talk through. In addition to, we'll need to talk more money. And so we look forward to getting that report after July 19th to dig into. And then we'll move forward from there. So we'll go offline now, and then we'll see you guys back on the 27th of July.